There will be a day when I take down Hikaru, where I take down Danya, where I take down Magnus, and where I rise to the best online blitz player in the world!
Can you imagine if that came true? Hans Niemann has risen through the ranks recently and he's now number 3 in the world on chess.com at Blitz Chess. Who is this guy? Playing like Magnus Carlsen, and I am not exaggerating. He hangs with Hikaru Nakamura here for over 90 moves. The climax to this game will leave you shell-shocked. It's an instant classic. Hikaru playing with white here, hands with black. It's titled Tuesday, a prestigious weekly online chess tournament. 3 minutes each on the clock, as you can see on the left. They get 1 second per move back. That's called increment here. And wow, this is exceptional. So we get e4 played, c6 on the board, the Caro-Kann defense, knight c3, d5 and knight f3. The 2 knights attack. By the way, this is the late titled Tuesday, round 9, and they're vying for first place here. I'll show the full results at the end. Now, why not d4 from black? Well, without doing a whole opening lesson, the knight drops back, then you can go c3 after c5, and you either get a massive centre as white, or you undermine this centre. Think queen a4 check. Once you've pushed the pawn, this one tender. So, bishop g4, best move. We see h3 and the bishop voluntarily gives itself up. Why would you give up the bishop pair as black? Well, e6 on the board. Hans sets up this brilliant party hat pawn triangle. Think of it from his point of view, and it's a nice pawn structure when you've gotten rid of this bishop, which would otherwise be a bad bishop like we see in the French defense. So now g3 from Hikaru. He's preparing to fianchetto. Of course, if he does that, he'll sing it in his best Italian accent. Think Pavarotti. He's a consummate professional, is Hikaru Nakamura. We get knight d7 played, and now d4 is the most principled move here, taking central space. But Hikaru goes queen e2. Nice idea to potentially open this one. You eyeball the king, but this is where the knight wanted to go. So Hans seizes on the moment, goes d4, and now the knight is stumbling back to d1. Back in with mum and dad, right? But we won't do the whole traveller analogy today. So now this pawn's taken the space, but it's not enough for Hans. He goes h5 here. He wants space on both sides of the board. It's amazing how often you can fling that rook pawn in modern chess and it's a decent move. h4 threatened, not a desirable structure. So Hikaru pushes there. Now e5 supporting the centre. It does open this bishop for the diagonal there down towards the knight. Of course, Hikaru singing at the top of his lungs here. And now bishop d6 played. Looks a bit dead, staring at its own pawn here, but it anticipates f4. Hikaru's main pawn break in this position. We get d3, knight e7 played. Could have come to f6, eyeing g4, different plans. c3 from Hikaru, undermining the centre. c5 supports, castles, that square now cleared for the knight, very harmonious. And now you can go bishop d2. Carry on with some natural development. But Hikaru decides he wants to close the centre here. Very cozy. Queen e7. Hans carries on his development here. So a3 from Hikaru, looking for some expansion later on. a5 from Hans. He extinguishes the flames of b4 before it can come on the board. So b3, more modest. g6, the pawn structure getting locked up. We see bishop g5, eyeballing the queen. Never play f6, but here it's justified. You kick back the bishop, and now Hans takes the king for a walk with king to d8. It's a nice idea. He wants the castle, but he's scared to leave the a file if he castled queenside. Now we see f4. Finally, Hikaru breaking the thematic move. Now, we do not see takes. It's playable according to the engine, but it looks scary to connect these pawns. Who knows when a nasty pawn break could be coming. So king c7 played. Hikaru never takes here. In a million years, you activate 3 minor pieces in one bad pawn move if you do that. F5 playable to keep the dark squared pawn structure, keep these ones locked down, but we won't go down that rabbit hole. It's played soon. Knight F2 played first instead. Here the rook comes to the f-file. Niemann just about hanging with Hikaru on the clock, which is impressive. We see rook ae1, now king b8 played, king g2, bishop c7, and now Hikaru changes the structure with pawn to f5. Niemann responds with g5 here. Of course, what else? You want to open lines to the king. You can sidestep, give the bishop room, but Hikaru decides to take, pawn recaptures, and now g4. How ugly does that look? Killing these pieces, but it's the best move. Because yes, you give black this pass pawn, but it's well blockaded. White's also got a pass pawn, and here you can attack the base of the pawn chain. Equally, black can try and attack the base of white's pawn chain, but it's less easy to get to. So rook b1 from Hikaru. He switches back to the queen side. That's where the king is. We see bishop d6, rook b2. Lots of shuffly moves here. Hikaru bringing the forces. Hands doing likewise. Knight f6 on the cards, but first the base of the pawn chain covered. We see bishop f1, knight f6. This knight pressuring the pawn, so the knight drops back to defend. Queen d1, rook a6. Lots of shuffly moves. Every day they're shuffling and they're just trying to waste time on the clock. Try and get the opponent to use too much time. This rook comes to the a file here. Who's going to be the first one to change the character of the position? Lots of shuffling going on. King b7, bishop f2, king c7, bishop g1, and now it's Hans Niemann, to his credit, who is the first one to try and do a plan, shake it up. And he starts with pawn to a4 here. So Hikaru captures that one. Rook recaptures, bishop d1, get out my side of the board, the rook retreats, bishop f2, this one doubles, and now this is a great move by Hikaru. You know, why not go, say, bishop e1? Shuffly, yes, but you keep an eye on some important squares. Well then, knight b4 is coming. Because this pawn can't capture, there's actually a pin down here, you know, you lose a rook. So that's why pawn a4. Best move. Yes, you relinquish control of b4, but it wasn't really covered anyway. Now by doing this, you've cleared the a3 square, you can nudge up the board, and that is a more active rook. Great play from Hikaru. Also covers this base. We see queen c6. Queen b1, and now this is the most strange moment of the entire game, because Hans Niemann outright blunders with this move, knight to f6. He had loads of other moves, just could have kept shuffling. Why is this so bad? Obviously pause if you want to look for the move. It's very basic Betty stuff. This pawn's now hanging. You can simply take it. And there's no time for kind of knight takes here tricks or knight takes here tricks, whatever. None of that working. There's always a knight e6 check in a Zwischenzug, you know, and then you pick up the piece, whatever. It's just great for white, of course, completely winning. But Hikaru missed it. But not just that. Look at his clock time. 55 seconds. Excuse me. He invested time here and then played king h2. He used 25 seconds. You know, I didn't see the stream. I don't know if he was talking to people or what, but you would suspect his head is in the game. Maybe he got spooked by something just so strange. He used that much time, but then didn't play the right move. So now knight h7. Hans realizes the mistake. We get bishop e1, lots more shuffly moves, so we're going to head through this part of the game quite quickly. Nothing much changes, both players shuffling. They're now down to about 20 seconds each. Hikaru here trying to turn the screw, but Niemann hanging with him, and now Hikaru decides he wants to bring this knight round towards the queen side. It puts the first decision to Hans. Do you want to take here? Take off some pieces? Well, playable. Niemann retreats. Also a decent move. Keeps an eye on some squares. Hikaru now goes after the b file. The pawn covered. This one comes back. More shuffling around, right? But the best part of this game, the absolute climax, is on the way. And guess what? It's courtesy of Hans Niemann. Bishop e1, bishop e7, more bishop shuffling right. Hikaru comes round to attack the base of the pawn chain here. Niemann still has it covered. Knight e1, queen c6, knight c2, and now here the game absolutely explodes into action. What a finish we've got here. And if you're enjoying, do consider subscribing to never miss a future game. So what does Niemann play? He could take on c2, keep the equilibrium, but no. He picks up this knight on b4 and smashes through, taking a pawn. The computer hates it, gives a great advantage to white. Hikaru captures and Niemann smashes through here. 2 pawns for the piece and these connected passes. And rumour has it, it's at this point that Niemann starts muttering under his breath,
"Chess speaks for itself, chess speaks for itself, chess speaks for itself.
Chess speaks for itself, chess speaks for itself. You know, trying to motivate himself to stay in this game here. He's got 4 seconds on the clock. It's a fascinating position. This rook is attacked and under fire, so there's no time for bishop f3 skewering. And the best way to then play for white is with knight a3. You cover the rook, prepare bishop f3, and keep an eye on the queen. But Hikaru lifts this rook into the game, supporting the rook, yes, preparing bishop f3, but the queen's left undefended. So the computer finds these amazing tactics with queen h1. That's why the evaluation bar is reacting. No time for bishop f3 or you lose an unprotected queen, and there's now a threat of queen f1 check. Crazy tactics. No human sees that. So the queen drops back here, prepared to meet bishop f3 with e4. So that's why Hikaru sidesteps his rook. We get knight d7, and now this is truly fantastic from Hikaru. He plays the best move here, bishop f3, scything down the diagonal, landing that skewer, or pin, however you say it. So e4 played to block that, of course, but this is Hikaru's point. He crashes through with the knight on d4, a Zwischenzug, and being the consummate professional he is, he leans forward, whispers it into the mic, Zwischenzug, in a kind of creepy ASMR way, because that's what the top guys do. Now the pawn captures the knight because the queen under fire, but now we see Hikaru take, supported by the queen. He's ruined Hans Niemann's pawns, and he's winning an exchange here. Niemann did grab this one though. Rook recaptures. Queen d3 offers an exchange. Here Hans declines it. He's playing like an absolute machine, like Magnus Carlsen. It's move 88. He's on seconds and he's hanging with Hikaru. We get queen f3, offering the exchange. You can't really avoid it. The rook's unprotected behind. Now we see queen captures. Rook takes back here and knight c5. An exchange down, but with a running d-pawn. So bishop g1, perfect play from Hikaru. Rook d8, push 'em baby, as Yasser Serwan would say. a5, great move for counterplay. d3 on the board, not best apparently, because rook f1 to d1 can now be played, but okay, we'll stick with the game. Hikaru takes the knight, and now does Hans take back? No. He pushes on, a Zwischenzug of his own, pawn to d2. He doesn't lean forward and whisper it. He's too busy muttering under his breath. Chess speaks for itself. He's on it. He's got a girl in the delivery suite, wants to land it, make that baby girl, but Hikaru now succumbs to the pressure of Hans Niemann and goes wrong. What should he do here? Well, the only drawing move is rook f d3. Hikaru plays the disastrous rook ad3. I mean, subtle stuff. What's the difference? Well, now this rook's no longer on the A file, and so it's not here to support the push of this pawn in certain lines. The bishop is captured. Best move. Hikaru now takes, losing, but everything's losing at this stage. However, if you had the other construction of the rooks with one here, now you could push a6. Yes, black can make a queen. You give the rook recaptures, but ultimately this rook on the A file could support the pawn through. This rook has to get back, give itself up. We enter an endgame where white has a rook, but black has a bishop and a passed pawn that can get to c3. It's a level position. Okay, I don't want to click into the whole rabbit hole, but that was the draw. However, Hikaru takes here. Bishop recaptures. Now he goes a6, because if he goes rook d3, there's bishop takes, supporting the pawn. These are marching together. It's game over. So he tries a6, but simply queen played and resigns. Hikaru Nakamura goes down to Hans Niemann, and look at the tournament results. This decided the entire late title Tuesday, which Magnus Carlsen didn't play in as far as I'm aware. So this was the standings. Oh my goodness, who is this guy? Where has this blitz beast come from? And before you cry cheating, by the way, no way in hell. You cannot cheat on that level of time, that few seconds left. It's just impossible. Wow, what a game. Please let me know your thoughts down below. And for another epic game from the same tournament, check out the video on screen. Thanks very much for watching, and see you soon.